Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a really close look at a financial classic, one that's, well, it definitely stood the test of time. George S. Clausen's The Richest Man in Babylon.
Mm.
Now, this isn't just some dusty old book. It's more like a blueprint for building wealth. And our goal today, our mission, is to pull out the most practical, enduring insights directly for you.
Yeah, think of it like a shortcut.
Exactly. A shortcut to understanding these timeless financial ideas.
And what's really interesting, I think, is our source material for this deep dive. It comes from these specific excerpts called Babylon's Riches, Timeless Financial Wisdom for Bengalis.
Right.
And this adaptation, it really shows how universal these ancient ideas are. It frames them in a way that feels incredibly relevant, for practical everyday use, especially, I'd say, for folks managing middle-class household finances.
It really drives home that these principles work across cultures, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It shows they really do transcend time and place.
So that's what we're doing. We're going to unpack these core principles. We'll focus on maybe some surprising facts, but mostly on actionable insights, things you can actually use, like starting tomorrow. And as we go through this, maybe, think about your own financial habits. What kind of clicks with you as we explore these ancient strategies?
Good idea.
Okay, so where do we even start? I guess if we're talking financial health, it has to begin with that first, most basic principle from the book: save a portion of your income.
The absolute foundation.
Yeah. And the core message from our source is super clear. Keep at least 10% of your earnings for yourself. Just straight up, 10%.
Right.
So they give an example, like if you earn 30,000 BDT, that's Bangladeshi taka, per month, the advice is save at least 3,000 BDT from that.
A concrete number makes it tangible.
Exactly. It's not vague. And they use this great analogy in the source, too. Saving regularly is like preparing for Durga Puja by setting aside small amounts.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, you do it consistently, bit by bit, and then when the time comes, you have what you need.
That Durga Puja analogy is brilliant, actually, because it taps into something deeper, doesn't it? Lots of people know intellectually I should save. But doing it, that's the hard part, with all the daily pressures.
Totally.
And what Babylon's approach does so well, I think, is it simplifies it. Makes it almost this non-negotiable habit, like a ritual.
Less about willpower, maybe.
Exactly. More about a system. And that consistency, even if the amounts feel small at first, well, that's where the magic of compounding happens over time. It builds stability.
Okay, but that does raise a question, doesn't it? I mean, for someone really struggling, maybe just covering daily costs, is 10% always feasible? Does the source talk about that?
That's a really important point. The source presents 10% as, like, the target, the ideal to shoot for. It doesn't explicitly detail adjustments for, say, extreme hardship, but the emphasis is really on starting the habit.
Ah, okay. So even if it's less than 10% to begin with.
Right, just start. Build the discipline, because controlling your spending, which is, the next logical principle, is key to making any saving possible.
Makes sense. So principle number 2, control your expenses. And our source gets really practical here. It says, make a monthly expense list. And it names specific things like market costs, internet, your mobile bill, bus fare, even private tuition fees.
The everyday stuff.
Yeah. But the part I found really insightful was the distinction it makes between wants and needs. Like it says Netflix might be a want, but paying your electricity bill, that's a definite need.
And that distinction, it sounds simple, but it's so fundamental. And honestly, often overlooked today. It's about discipline, like you said, but also just conscious choices.
Knowing where your money should go first.
Precisely. Needs first, then wants. And you asked earlier about misconceptions. I see it all the time. People kind of blur those lines, thinking premium streaming or fancy daily coffees or the newest phone are needs.
Guilty as charged on the coffee sometimes.
Huh. Well, Babylon's framework kind of forces you to step back and really evaluate that. It's basic, but it's a cornerstone of managing your money responsibly.
I remember trying this exercise myself, actually tracking everything. It's quite the eye-opener how those little things add up. My coffee budget was...
Yeah. Humbling.
It usually is.
But okay, once you've maybe found some savings by controlling expenses, the next step is crucial and maybe where people get a bit stuck. That's principle 3, invest your savings.
Right, because just saving isn't enough. Letting it sit in a bank account, especially with inflation.
Exactly. It needs to work for you. Our source mentions specific examples like a recurring deposit or an SIP, a systematic investment plan.
Which is basically just investing a fixed amount regularly, takes the guesswork out, builds discipline.
Right. But it also mentions things like small-scale business investments, things like freelancing, or maybe creating online courses.
Yeah, I liked that they included those. It broadens the idea of investing beyond just traditional stocks and bonds.
It really does. It opens up possibilities. And that's the whole point, isn't it? Making your money work for you, generating more income, growing your wealth, whether it's through traditional investments or starting a small side hustle like freelancing. It's about building different income streams.
Passive income, ideally.
Ideally, yes, that's key for long-term financial freedom. Give you options, control over your time.
Now, the fourth principle was one that, honestly, it stood out to me. Maybe not what you'd immediately think of as financial advice. It's invest in your knowledge.
Ah, yes, this one's powerful.
It sounds simple, but the source gives a really concrete rule.
Mm,
Read at least 5 pages or learn for 15 minutes every single day.
just 15 minutes. Manageable.
Totally. And it lists specific skills: graphic design, video editing, YouTube, content creation, and of course, reading books about finance or investing.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, when I first read that, I kind of paused. Because we usually think of investing money, right? But Klassen, writing way back when, almost seemed to predict the importance of skills, like in today's gig economy or creator economy.
He was ahead of his time there. It's about building your human capital.
That's a good way to put it. Human capital.
And that's why it's such a smart long-term financial strategy. You invest in yourself, you learn new skills, you become more valuable in the marketplace. That directly increases your earning potential.
And probably helps you make better financial decisions, too.
Absolutely. Better skills, better judgment. It all ties together. Your biggest asset isn't just the money you have. It's your ability to learn and adapt.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Which brings us to the fifth and final principle. Seek advice from experienced people.
Don't go it alone.
Right. The source uses a really clear analogy. Just like you go to a doctor when you're sick, you should get help from an experienced financial advisor when it comes to money matters.
Simple and effective analogy.
But it adds a crucial warning. Look for a proper guide, not just your friends.
Yes. That distinction is so important. Getting casual advice from friends is, well, it's often based on their limited experience, maybe some biases.
Like trying to fix your car, watching a random YouTube video versus taking it to a real mechanic.
Exactly like that. A professional, unbiased advisor brings expertise, structure, helps you avoid costly mistakes. They see the bigger picture in a way casual advice often doesn't.
Okay, so those are the 5 big principles. And our source material actually wraps up with some great actionable exercises for you, the listener.
Practical takeaways, good.
Yeah. First, actually create that monthly income and expense list. See where the money's going. Second, make a real plan to save that 10% or whatever percentage you can start with.
Get it down on paper.
Third, identify just 3 unnecessary expenses you can cut. Start small. Fourth, develop a small investment plan. Even just thinking it through is a start.
Get the wheels turning.
And finally, number 5, commit to investing in your knowledge. Within the next 7 days, read a finance book or a self-help book or even watch a solid YouTube video on a relevant skill.
Just take one small step.
Exactly. These aren't just vague ideas. They're concrete actions to, actually kickstart things.
And if you pull back and look at the big picture, the core lesson from The Richest Man in Babylon, which our source really highlights, it's kind of profound in its simplicity. The rules of money do not change with time.
Still relevant after all these years.
Absolutely. It boils down to consistency. Small, disciplined habits, that's what leads to the big financial goals. It's not about some secret formula. It's about these fundamental behaviors.
And bringing it back to the context of our source, for anyone, maybe especially in a middle-class household, just trying to manage the budget and build a better future. These principles, they really can be, as the source says, life-changing.
Truly transformative if applied consistently.
So, wrapping this up, what does all this mean for you personally listening right now? We've talked through these principles, but maybe think beyond them for a second. What's one small, consistent habit, maybe something we didn't even cover directly, that you could commit to starting today? Something you believe could have the biggest long-term impact on your financial well-being, something to really chew on.